Welcome to Lunchtime Live with the Center. My name is Ami Choksi, and today we're talking with Kathy Paniati about egg donation. Kathy is a registered nurse and team manager for our third-party reproduction program. Welcome back, Kathy.
Thank you so much.
Now, say that again.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Now, there's more than one way to build a family, and one of them is through egg donation. And while we've spoken a little bit about being the recipient of donor eggs, today we're going to turn the table and talk about becoming an egg donor. So, Kathy, could you first talk about what is egg donation?
Egg donation is when one woman supplies her oocytes or eggs to another woman who, for whatever reason, is not able to use her own eggs to conceive a child.
And so who can do this, or, why would you do this? We'll start there. Why would someone become an egg donor?
Okay, why would someone become an egg donor? Certainly, because they have a sense of altruism. They may have heard about women. They may have relatives who are women who have struggled with fertility, and they want to help in some way. Young women, most of them have this ability that they've been born with to provide literally the gift of life to another woman. So they may hear ads on the radio. They may have a personal connection. They may simply want to change the world and realize that this is something that they were born with, that they could use to impact another person's life. Some young people do it for the compensation. And we're very careful to make sure that there's a balance with donors, that there is certainly a sense of altruism and goodwill. And we realize the fact that most young people need extra money as well. So we can talk about that later, but compensation and altruism together make the best donor.
Yeah. And so what is the process of doing this, of egg donation?
The process is tedious and it's long, and I think it's not exactly what a lot of donor applicants expect. So the donors are screened psychologically, they're screened medically, genetically, and they're screened by the FDA in relation to their risk factors. So the process starts by going on our website, the Center for Advanced Reproductive Services, look for special programs, and it's called How to Be an Egg Donor. They would fill out a brief questionnaire with their demographics, basic information, height, weight, nationality, ethnicity. Something that's important for us to know is that donor applicants know their biological family's history. So they would fill out that quick application. Then we do a telephone interview with them and kind of beef up that initial contact, get some more information, and we send them a donor profile. It's about 30 pages of family history and personal history, sexual history, fertility history, maternity history, if they've had children of their own. And we request and require that they provide at least 3 generations of family history in terms of medical history.
So there is a process to it.
It's a process. After that, at each step of the way, Dr. Nelson, our director, and Dr. Kim Crone, our psychologist, review each step. So they review the application and say, yes, this donor is clear to go forward, or no, they are not. And then we do genetic screening. It's blood work. Medical screening, we do a physical that's required by the FDA. It's a lot. There's a psychological consult in class. There's a psychological written test, and it's quite a commitment, and it's a commitment because it's quite a responsibility.
Yeah, and what percentage of people who apply are accepted, and who reviews that?
We all review it. So we review as a team. I would review, Dr. Nelson would review, Dr. Crone would review. And out of the applicants that apply every year, we accept about 1% to 6%.
Okay.
So it's a very small number
Yes.
of applicants are accepted. We're looking for lots. So donors become the extension of the woman who will be using the donor. They're looking for extensions of themselves. They're looking for matching characteristics. They're looking for acceptable health history. They're looking for genetic history. They're looking to see if the donor is ambitious, if what their education history is like, what their goals in life are. They're looking for a connection. So we want to give them as much information as possible for them to make their decision. And we're also collecting information, which is going to become a vital part of the child's medical record.
Now, is this done when a patient decides to use donor eggs, or does the donor come and provide the eggs? We freeze them, and then the patient uses the frozen eggs.
We do not do that. So we are not an egg bank. We do work with egg banks, and that's a different conversation. But for the donors that we screen here, we try to screen and have on hand about 10 donors. We try to have a diverse representation of the population. And once a recipient decides to use donor egg, they will take a look at the profile, all of the information that we've amassed, and they will choose. At that point, and only at that point, would we cycle the donor. So we don't bank eggs. When a donor matches with the recipient, all of the eggs for that retrieval process go to the one recipient.
So it's per retrieval that a patient would have a donor that. So would they know that donor?
They would not know that donor. So I think the goal this year for our program is to move away from the word anonymous, because donation in this day and age is not truly anonymous. We want to adopt the word non-directed, or the term non-directed, meaning that they do not know each other. But in the age of technology and facial recognition and genetic search engines, it's impossible to keep anything anonymous in this day and age. Sure. We also ask the donors in advance whether or not they would be open to future contact. So we want to protect their confidentiality as much as possible, at least during the process and until the child is 18. And that's also a protection of their option to disclose or not disclose. Donors and recipients both make very difficult decisions prior to the birth of a child, and how you feel on this side of it is often very different on the other side. We want to protect their options until a child is born and until their life progresses, and they can make decisions about that at a later date.
What do we look for as far as age, and if there are any other specifics that might help someone know if they're they have a possibility of becoming a donor? Sure,
we do have some strict basic requirements. The age that we're looking for is 21 to 32. We have specific BMI recommendations. If somebody has a BMI that is too low or too high, that may impact egg quality. So we would steer away from either end of the BMI scale. We need non-smokers. We need people who have not participated in recreational drug use. We need people who don't have a strong genetic history of something, anything, on both sides of their family. We're not looking for people with perfect medical histories or families with perfect medical histories, because that simply doesn't exist. But we're looking for non-generational type disease processes. We're looking for people who know the biological, who know the medical history of their biological parents, so that can again be passed on to the child as their medical history. Otherwise, we're we're open, and we're certainly looking for people who have ambition, like I said before, ambition, drive, altruism, a sense of goodwill, strong family connections, a good understanding of this process.
Okay. Now, I don't know if this question has come up for you. If someone were coming to us to freeze their eggs, would we ever, or could they use, or could they donate some of those eggs as well?
That's a good question. And that question has come up a couple times lately, actually. And I believe what we've decided is that if someone is freezing their own eggs and they want to donate eggs within that same cycle, it poses a conflict of interest. We want them to donate their oocytes freely. If a donor was freezing for herself and a recipient at the same time, there'd be a conflict. If there were eggs that were stellar and eggs that were mediocre, how do we divide those? Do we give them to the donor? Do we give them to the recipient? So we try to steer away from those ethical situations or conflict of interest type situations. So if she had a good experience donating or freezing eggs for herself, we could certainly set up a second cycle for her to donate separately.
And who pays for this? And is the egg donor compensated for this?
The egg donor is definitely compensated. Here at the center, it is $8,000 per retrieval cycle.
Okay.
It is taxable, so we let them know that up front. And the recipients cover the cost within their screening costs. They have a donor screening cost on their end, and that covers the compensation.
And does that also cover the actual procedures and the that are involved, like in the retrieval procedure?
Sure. Yes. The recipients cover everything. There is no cost to the donor at all. So all of the blood work, the genetics, the physical, the psychological is all paid for by the recipient. So there is no cost to the donors.
And can you also say, a little bit about the psychological, what is involved in that as far as how, what do they need to know going into a session?
Sure. We want you to know that we want you to be yourselves. We want you to be comfortable. It is psychoeducational in nature. We want you to know as much about the process as we know so that you can make an informed decision. We want to make sure that we talk about all the what ifs that may come up over the next 20, 30, 40 years for you and see if that's something that sounds good to you or something that you say, oh my God, I never thought of that. No, absolutely not. Like, get me out of here. We want you to be informed. Of course, because it is a process where you will be accepted into the program and pass certain screenings. There is an evaluation while the conversation's going on, but our psychologist, Dr. Kim Crone, is fantastic at helping people to feel comfortable and drawing out yourselves. And it's a way for us to provide the recipients with more information. That conversation gives us a lot. And the recipients do get to read the report from that evaluation. There's a second part to the psychological evaluation, which is called the MMPI. It's a personality inventory, and it gives us more information about you, possibly on the subconscious level that may not come out in conversation. And that, coupled with the consult, gives us a good idea as to.
And are donors informed if a child is born with their eggs?
Our policy right now is that if the donor asks, we will let them know that there was a live birth, but we give no other information.
Okay. And is there a number of times? Is there a limit? How many times can a woman donate her eggs?
Yes. So ASRM has decided that the safe number for a woman, a safe number of cycles is 6 in a lifetime.
Okay.
So that's the most. In those 6 cycles, it's possible for those eggs to be further donated to other couples. So we talk to the donors up front and let them know that Our recipients vary. That's a very diverse group of recipients, and that their eggs may be donated further to another couple in the form of embryos, perhaps. And we want to make sure that they're aware and they're okay with that.
Okay, so they do they have the option to say no after the fact?
They do not. In fact,
Okay.
we want them to know that that's a possibility so they can decide, I don't think egg donation is for me.
Okay.
The eggs that they do donate are given freely and clearly, so they have no rights to those eggs and they have no responsibilities for them either.
Okay. This is great information, Kathy. Thanks for all this information. What would someone do? What would be the first step if someone were considering this? Where would they go? Would they call us?
The first step is to start with our website, the Center for Advanced Reproductive Services. Look under special programs and look up egg donation. If that's not easy for you, you can certainly call us at our main number and ask for extension 8022, and we're happy to get you started.
Okay. And one more question before we go. Does donating your eggs, does it impact the donor's fertility in any way? Like, does it use up that egg supply?
The number, first of all, their ovarian reserve is screened up front. So if we see somebody who's on the lower end of ovarian reserve, they are not going to be accepted into the program for protection for their own fertility, and because they probably would not have a good cycle with us. The number 6 was talked about and decided upon by ASRM that would be the cutoff number to, again, protect a woman's fertility and allow them to be a donor as well. I'm not saying that well, but I think the true answer is that, of course, there's a potential, but it's very closely regulated, and we think we've got the right number of cycles to protect the donor as well.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for sharing about this, and be sure to check out our website at yukonfertility.com for any additional information, as well as a calendar of events to support you and help you feel connected. Now, we will see you next time, or see you next week for another Lunchtime Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.